coming up again. Like I said earlier, between 100 AD and 1900, there were no apostles, even though wonderful men did great things in those era, and they did wonderful things to maintain the purity of the church, but they never said they were apostles. We also mentioned Barnabas, Luke, Mark, who worked closely with the apostles, but never claimed that they were apostles. So it should make us sad that people are waking up and saying they're apostles. Sorry, and then we mentioned about revival, the Azusa revival that birthed, this whole thing that, okay, all those who maybe the church was dead, they didn't know that there was power. So now the Azusa brought out this idea that the Azusa called revival, but it's not a revival, because we said that revival is not craziness, it is change of heart. So this so-called revival that brought these things up again, we know how the whole thing ended, and that the church was never in darkness. There were men who stood with scriptures, and we are responsible to check the scriptures to know whether what is being said is true. And then we should also check the fruits of this, having many apostles. How is it that the more apostles we have, the more decline in biblical standard, or people holding to biblical truth? So the fruit is not good at all, because the more apostles are being churned out, the less people know about scriptures, and the less biblical people are. And then we should not be afraid also to call them out. We should have one mind, or we should be of one voice to call them out and say they are heretics.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to try. I'm going to ask you two questions in one. Join it as quick as possible. Considering the long-term time frame your group looked at, from 100 AD to 1900 AD, why do you think the church age in that period sensed it dangerous? Why was it such an issue that they didn't call themselves an apostle? Nobody called themselves. What do you think was the reason that it was such a crucial issue that they never dared it? So how crucial, and do you think, the second question closely related, do you think that time frame period to see centuries, do you think we should pay attention as modern day Christians who want to buy into the idea of apostles? Do you think we should pay attention to the time frame period of which nobody dared enter office?
Okay, I think the reason why those people never did that was because they understood the weight of what the gospel is. They understood the weight of knowing who Christ is and who God is. So because they knew that they dared not trifle with things of doctrine. And the fact that they understood these things just basically meant that they knew that this was a serious thing, and they should not even, our teacher mentioned the fact that they did not even joke about it. They did not even say, you're an apostle, the way we joke, you're an apostle, that they could not even joke about it, let alone claim the title. So it was a serious thing because they understood the weightiness of doctrine, of who God is, who Christ is, and all that. And I think something that I should mention is the fact that we also said that if we look at church too in Nigeria, there was a time where this, like Pastor Benny was saying earlier, there was a time when these things, you could not even mention it. But because many churches who started fairly well see the need to keep young people in church, so they need to do something new. And then I also hear now that even these old Pentecostal churches are beginning to complain that their young people are going out to these apostles. So it's just a decline.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right. Can we please put our hands together for the representative of the yellow team? How that we are flippant. How that we even joke about the term today. Even if we don't believe it, we just joke about it. Apostle, and we just joke about it. These things don't mean anything to us. We don't realize the weight of the office. All right. Are you ready? Okay. Let's call the blue team, representative of Team Blue. Okay. Keeping with tradition. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. So we were taken by Pastor Larry, and ours was more emphasis on prophets, right? So we just a recap of everything we did yesterday and including today, because we looked at the pastoral implications and characteristics of how to be able to identify these false prophets. So we said the prophetic office is said to be foundational and non-continuing, just like what we said yesterday. And we also had to explore if the modern day prophets are true or if they're just simply oracles of men or of that of God. We also said that if the very foundation in which the prophets say that they are prophets, which, it's not based on foundation, that means how would they be able to say what is true when the very foundation of what they are is false? Again, we said that we do not have prophets in the order of apostolic foundations. If there are any declarations, then it must be contained in the scriptures. Because for prophecy, it has to be either for foretelling and forthtelling. That is, either one of them is to make declarations and the other is to predict. So, and also, I think tied to the question that Wisdom asked yesterday, if people who are coming up and saying that they are prophets now, how are we able to identify that it is false? So, if we see the Bible, we know that all the prophets, what has been said or what God has said through them are contained in the Bible. So if we're having new prophecies now that are coming up, that means we are trying to say that the Bible is not sufficient. All that God wants to tell us, He's adding more to what we already have.